All right, so we're diving deep into workplace lighting today. We've got a whole pile of material here.
Yeah, quite a bit to unpack.
But our mission, right, to really boil it down to the core principles so we can all understand, like, how to actually make our workspaces.
More comfortable.
Exactly. More comfortable, more efficient, safer, all of that good stuff.
It's not just flipping a switch.
No, not at all. It's about creating an environment that actually helps you do your best work. And it's amazing, how many small things can actually have a big impact. For example, did you know that simply cleaning your windows can actually dramatically reduce your energy costs and improve your entire workspace?
Absolutely, yeah. That ties into one of the key points here about harnessing daylight, right? I mean, daylight, it's the best light source. It's free, it's natural.
And it can even be healthier for you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
There's research that suggests morning sunlight can actually help regulate your sleep-wake cycle. Yeah. And of course, the flip side, if you don't have enough daylight, your materials point out the risks. Eye strain, fatigue, that feeling of being cooped up. It can even increase injury rates, which is a pretty big deal.
Makes sense. So what can people do? What are some practical steps?
Well, cleaning the windows is a good start. But also, think about your workstation placement. Are you close to a window? Can you rearrange things? Maybe even think bigger picture, like, are there opportunities to add more windows or even skylights?
I love skylights.
They can make a huge difference. And then a simple thing is using separate light switches for areas where you do have daylight.
Oh, that's smart.
That way you're not wasting energy when you've got the sun streaming in.
Right. Makes total sense. Now, another area that I found fascinating in these materials is the impact of color. Specifically on walls and ceilings. I had no idea, for example, that white could reflect up to 90% of light. 90%, that's wild.
It is, yeah. And to be precise, a matte white paint is what achieves that. And what's really interesting is how that ties into energy use.
How so?
Well, because lighter colors, in general, mean you need fewer artificial lights.
Oh, I see.
So you save energy, but you're also increasing comfort. And this is especially important in workspaces where accurate color perception is critical. Like if you're doing any kind of design work or anything that involves color matching.
Right, of course.
And the materials do warn, against poor color choices because that can actually lead to eye strain.
So it's not just about aesthetics?
No, not at all. It's really functional.
And the finish matters too, right? Like you don't want a super glossy, shiny surface.
Exactly, yeah. Glossy surfaces, they cause glare, which is a whole other issue we can talk about later.
Yeah.
But in general, the recommendations here for ceilings is to aim for very light colors. 80 to 90% reflectivity. And for walls, pale colors, 50 to 85% reflectivity.
So basically keep things bright.
Keep things bright, avoid really stark contrasts. And the other tip here is to use white ceilings, if you can, with upward-facing light fixtures. That combination helps distribute light much more evenly.
Interesting.
And of course, keeping everything clean is absolutely vital. Dust buildup can really diminish that reflectivity over time.
Right. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about walkways and service areas like corridors and staircases, storage rooms, those kinds of spaces. Because poor lighting in these areas, it's a recipe for accidents.
Absolutely, yeah. Your materials really emphasize this. Think about a dimly lit corridor or a storage space. Things can get really hazardous quickly.
Right, you trip over something, you bump into something.
Exactly, and the solutions here are thankfully pretty straightforward. Start by cleaning existing lights. Often, just cleaning them can make a big difference.
Yeah. Decluttering, getting rid of obstacles helps.
Absolutely. And then potentially, relocating lights, adding more lights. And it's really important to get input from the people who actually use these spaces.
Right. Yeah, they know where the dark spots are.
Exactly. Maximizing daylight in these areas is great too. Can you keep doors open?
Right.
Could you add windows, maybe skylights? And then having easy to find light switches is crucial. And, using bright paint on steps or other obstacles to increase visibility.
Makes sense.
Now, lower light levels might be acceptable in some service areas.
Yeah.
But safety should always be the top priority. And one thing to be cautious about is automatic switches in frequently used areas.
Oh, yeah. Why is that?
Well, because if the lights suddenly go out when someone's walking through, that could create a dangerous situation.
Right. You're plunged into darkness. Okay, so now let's shift to the actual workspaces themselves. And one thing that really jumped out at me is the importance of ensuring even illumination. Because uneven lighting, it can be really tiring, really fatiguing on your eyes.
Oh, for sure. Your materials, they talk about how your eyes are constantly adjusting between bright and dark spots, and that takes a toll.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
And it can also be distracting.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Flickering light as well. Your sources point out that can be problematic for some people, even triggering seizures in some cases. And then sharp shadows can also make it difficult to see details, which obviously can affect the quality of your work. So how do you address that? How do you create more even illumination?
Well, first you want to eliminate those isolated bright spots. And then think about adjusting or adding general lighting, using separate switches for areas with natural light versus areas without natural light that can help maintain consistent levels. And good light distribution and reflection are key to minimizing shadows. And then replacing old fluorescent tubes, that can make a big difference as well. High-frequency tubes or three-phase current can be better options in some cases.
Interesting.
And if you connect this back to the bigger picture, it's really about that combination, right? Daylight, reflected light, general lighting, task lighting, even workstation layout. All these things work together. And often, just placing the general lighting higher up can improve uniformity quite a bit.
That makes sense. Okay, now let's talk about providing enough light for the tasks that people are actually doing. It sounds basic, but it's really crucial for comfort, accuracy, and safety.
It is, yeah. Enough light, it helps you see details clearly, which reduces errors and accidents. And your materials really stress the importance of combining natural and artificial light and making sure the light level matches the task at hand.
So more demanding tasks need more light.
Exactly, yeah. Like precision work or working with dark materials, you'll need more light. Age is a factor too. Older workers often need significantly more light.
Oh, that's an important consideration.
And the speed of the work matters as well. The faster the task, the better the lighting needs to be. And of course, regular maintenance of all lighting is just so crucial.
Right, so you're not losing light over time. Now, for detailed work, your materials really emphasize the need for local lighting.
Yeah, think of it like this. You've got your general lighting for the overall space. But then for specific tasks, especially those that require close attention, you need that extra boost of focused light.
Makes sense. And this can really improve both safety and efficiency, right?
Absolutely, because that local light helps eliminate shadows in those critical areas, so you can see really clearly what you're doing.
But you have to be mindful of eye strain and glare.
Oh, for sure. Placement is key. So best practices here are to place shielded local lights close to and above the work area. Avoid bare bulbs. Those are harsh.
Right.
Adjustable lights are great because they offer more flexibility. And if the task involves color matching, daylight bulbs are a good choice. Also, you want to make sure there's good contrast between the task and the background. And your materials also caution against things like, obstructing the operator's view or mounting lights on vibrating equipment because that can create issues.
Right.
And when it comes to the lampshades themselves, deep, dark, matte shades are best. And in general, fluorescent lamps are preferable to filament lamps, especially for local lighting.
Why is that?
Well, filament lamps generate a lot of heat, which can be uncomfortable for the worker.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay, let's talk about glare, because glare is a real visibility killer.
It is. And it causes a lot of discomfort, eye fatigue, headaches, and it can really reduce your performance because you're struggling to see clearly.
So how do you combat glare?
Well, it's multifaceted. You want to think about the position of computer screens in relation to windows. Ideally, they shouldn't be directly opposite each other. You want to make sure there are no bare bulbs visible in the worker's field of view. And adjusting the height or position of overhead lamps can help, as can using things like partitions or blinds to block direct sunlight.
Right.
Low-mounted, well-shaded local lights are also good for reducing glare. And sometimes simply changing the direction of the light can make a big difference.
And for windows, I've heard that even just applying a translucent film can help cut down on glare.
Absolutely, yeah. That can make a big difference. And for local lights, those deep dark shades we talked about, those are really key. Sometimes, reducing the overall overhead lighting and relying more on task lamps can actually be a better approach for reducing glare. And then the surfaces in the workspace matter too.
How so?
Well, if you have a lot of highly reflective surfaces that can really amplify glare, so using more matte finishes can help.
Interesting. Okay, now one last area I want to touch on is the visual background behind the work, because for tasks that require a lot of concentration, a plain, distraction-free background is really important.
Absolutely. Your materials are right on point with this. Think about it. If you're constantly bombarded with visual clutter, it's going to be hard to focus. It can lead to eye strain, errors, all sorts of problems.
Right, it's distracting.
And there are lots of ways to address this. You can use screens or partitions between workspaces to create visual separation. And for tasks that involve small, flat objects, backlighting through diffusing glass can improve visibility. And then, careful placement of light sources to avoid casting shadows on the background. That's really important too.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And it's all about creating that sense of visual focus. But keep in mind, while partitions can help, you also want to balance that with the need for communication in the workspace. So you don't want to create a bunch of isolated little cubicles. And another thing to avoid is having very bright work areas in otherwise dark surroundings. Because again, that can lead to eye strain as your eyes are constantly adjusting.
Right. So think about the whole environment. Okay, last but not least, we have to talk about maintenance.
Yeah, this is huge.
Because dirty windows and lights, they can significantly reduce the amount of light you're getting. And it happens gradually, so you might not even realize it's happening.
That's right. And your materials actually call this out as a hidden cause of lower productivity and even more accidents. Because people are straining to see, they're getting fatigued, they're making mistakes.
So what's the solution?
Well, regular cleaning is key. Clean windows, clean lights, and that not only improves the amount of light, but it also saves energy and extends the life of the bulbs and tubes.
And it prevents flickering, too, which can be really annoying.
Exactly. So having a regular cleaning schedule for both windows and lights is essential. And having a system for reporting and replacing worn-out bulbs and tubes.
Makes sense. And I noticed the materials also mention that using upward opening light fixtures can help keep the reflectors cleaner.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Because dust tends to settle on horizontal surfaces.
Right. And when you are cleaning, use mild cleaners sparingly. You don't want to damage the surfaces.
And for large numbers of lights, it can be more efficient to consider fixed replacement times rather than waiting for them to burn out individually.
Interesting. So big picture here, optimizing your lighting, it's not just about one thing, right? It's a holistic approach.
Exactly. Combining natural and artificial light effectively, paying attention to color, to placement, thinking about glare, and then, of course, consistent maintenance. All these things work together to create a truly supportive workspace.
It's about more than just seeing. It's about creating a workspace that supports your well-being and your productivity. So as we wrap up here, I'd like to leave you with this thought. Think about your own workspace, your own lighting. How could even a small change like adjusting the position of a lamp or cleaning a window impact your day-to-day experience? And what other seemingly small environmental factors might be affecting your work or your comfort more than you realize? What's the first thing you're going to adjust?
That's a great question to ponder.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.